people quit products, they don't quit people.
Yeah.
So if your product actually delivers, something of value from a fitness standpoint, but you genuinely create a community and environment where everyone's welcome, and at least here, this is your second home, this is your second living room. We're here to be of service to you, to make sure you get what you want. You're going to succeed.
What's up, fitness friends? Welcome back to the Future of Fitness podcast and interview series. This is your host, Eric Malzone, and this is episode number 154. I talked to Scott Kinworthy, and what an interesting conversation I had with this gentleman. What is Scott? His background is unique, right? 17 years within the Blue Man Group. If you don't know what that is, go look it up. You should by now. He broke ground for F45 within the United States, opening first franchises here, I should say. And he's constantly pushing F45 into new areas, new markets like colleges, corporate locations, all kinds of interesting stuff. And I love the way that he and F45 think. And he gives a really good representation of what the F45 experience is. And I think that's one of my favorite things about this podcast is not just his backstory and him wearing a clown nose walking around New York City, but how he puts into the words so eloquently what the F45 experience is and why it's so critical to their success. And, they're growing, I think he said in the episode, something like 80 franchises a month. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. 80, right? So grab a notepad, take some notes. It's all about a great experience, and Scott definitely delivered one here on the podcast. And before we get into the episode, a couple things. Number one, please, if you enjoy listening to the show, I know there's a couple of you out there who do, go and leave a nice review. First of all, subscribe. Go to iTunes right now. It takes 3 minutes. Just pause. Go to iTunes, subscribe, leave a nice review. If the review is a good one, which they all have been so far, right? Knock on wood. I'll read it on air and I'll make you famous, kind of, right? Also, this episode is brought to you by Level 5 Mentors. So if you go to level5mentors.com, you'll find out what Ken and I are all about, helping entrepreneurs achieve what they really want, the real metrics, right? We always talk about income and things like that, but are those the real metrics? No, we want freedom, right? We want freedom of health, time, money, relationships, and purpose. And that's the 5 freedoms that we focus on, help entrepreneurs get there every day. So go check it out. If you're interested, I'd be more than happy to have a call with you. You can schedule it there and we can talk about what's going on in your world. That would be fantastic. So without further ado, this is episode number 154, Mr. Scott Kinworthy of F45. Enjoy the ride. We're live. Scott, welcome to the show, my friend.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to get your story out there. I'm excited to give people some information on what's going on in the fastest growing fitness franchise in the world at F45. And, you and I have had many conversations, and just knowing your personality and your background and how driven you are and the multiple things that you have going on, I think you're so entrepreneurial, like truly entrepreneurial, that I think people gather a lot of great insights from your experience and your knowledge. But I think always a great place to start, Scott, is if you can just give us your story, man. Give us your background. How did you get to where you are?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'll try and give you the abridged version. I started out as a musician, actually. In college, I was a percussion performance major. And then from there, I actually got a performance gig with Blue Man Group in 1997. And then I did Blue Man Group off and on for about 17, 18 years, with a big chunk in the middle there where I was mostly in either LA or New York, working on a TV or film career. I did a small stint on a soap opera. That was really fun.
Which soap opera?
All My Kids, or All My Children.
Okay.
And
I know that.
Yeah, it was a really, really interesting time. That gig wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Long story short, went back to LA and ultimately ended up back at Blue Man Group after like the great financial recession. My parents had kind of went through a hard time with their business, and Blue Man Group was always willing to offer me a job. So I went back and got a job and helped them through that time. And then from there, I knew after, 17, 18 years of Blue Man Group, I really wanted to get into something that was a business, and in an ideal world, a business where I can make a difference for some people, but also like really make some money and have a legacy for my family. That was a goal. I didn't know if I could do it or not, but I got started with a little marketing company, like a grassroots guerrilla marketing company, where we would do that for all the shows on the Strip because I knew everybody. And then I heard about F45, and this is when they had maybe 75, maybe 100 studios in Sydney in mid 2014. And my business partner and I, we're fairly diligent, and obviously this was going to be a big move for us in a different direction. A brick and mortar business in the fitness industry. Having been at Blue Man, like I had to, it was just part of your job is to work out, stay fit, make sure you can handle the balance and whatnot. But so we actually didn't tell them, and we flew over to Sydney, and we went to 10, 12 studios like every day, a couple times a day. And we got to know some of the members. We'd be like, hey, can I buy a coffee? Can I buy espresso? Can I buy a protein shake or something? And just pick your brain. And they didn't really know who we are, what we're up to, what we're going to do. But we would ask like, why are you here? Why are you working out? Why are you paying these prices? Why you choose this place over someplace else? And unprovoked, over 10 different gyms, call it 3 to 5 people at each place. We're like, well, I used to hate working out. Now I love working out. I lost 10 kg. I lost 20 kg. We were like, what's a kg? We figured it out. I'm just kidding. But they were all like, I'm able to work out with my mom, or I'm able to work out with my daughter. You could tell it was like, oh, there were like athletes in these classes, and there were like people that, hadn't worked out in years. And ultimately, they really felt like they were a part of something. And then we went back and we spoke to all the owners, and they couldn't believe the amount of revenue they were making, and more importantly, they couldn't believe the difference they were making in their community. And again, unprovoked, they were all just like, this is the best business decision I've ever made. And all of them, the thing that really piqued our ears up was they all were either in the process of opening a second studio, or third studio, or they already had it open with plans to expand. So at that point, we called up the CEOs and we sat down and charted out a plan for us to open in Las Vegas. So it just took a very, very long time to find the space we wanted and get open, but we finally got open by mid 2015, and we were technically the first F45 studio in America, and that's when they maybe had like 100, 150 studios at that point. And it's been a really fun ride. And then at some point I got pulled into the HQ side of things. I think probably because of some of my background, and then some of the success we had. But it was definitely it was a scary time right before we opened, because it sounded like a great idea. Everyone loved it in Australia, but 2 weeks prior to opening, we were like, wait a minute. We just put our life savings into this. So what are we doing exactly? We've never run a brick and mortar business. Didn't really certainly come from the fitness industry. We hit our break even number in 6 weeks.
Wow.
And then we had a full staff. And break even, what I mean by that is like we were still in the building, 12 hours a day, training all the classes and doing all the marketing, but we had enough that like the lights were paid, the stress was off, the pressure was off because of those members. But within 6 months, we had a full staff. 9 months, we had a manager, and I've honestly never looked back and never been in that studio more than a couple hours. We've just had managers, and it's been booming. And we're technically on our 4th studio. We've sold 2, but we're on our 4th F45, and across town in 45 Henderson. Yeah, and it brings us to and now I'm the director of the F45 Academy. And at F45 HQ, which is our online education portal. You're doing some great work with us on that. And then we've got the F45 Collegiate and Corporate Network, which we've been driving pretty hard the last couple of years to put F45s on college campuses.
Awesome, man. Yeah, so just a few things going on, right?
Yeah, just a couple things going on, yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious, going back, your background. You say your parents had a business. What kind of business do your parents have?
My dad had a steel fabrication business. So, he's built houses and, condos, ornamental iron. I mean, you name it. He at some point in Florida when it was really booming, he was doing it. But just like I'm sure so many people have this story where, they had a business. It was overextended because they were doing a job where like when in the fabricating business, you buy all the steel up front. And there was a ginormous job he had gotten with a bank that was backed by Bank of America. And then when the Great Recession happened, they pulled the plug on it. But fabricators, the people that have bought all the material, like you can sue, but there's not much you can do.
Yeah.
So they had a pretty tough time at that. But I mean, the prior 50 years were great.
Yeah. Yeah. And 50 years is a long time. Yeah, I'm just curious. The reason I asked the question is, generally people, like you mentioned in your story that, you kind of knew you would want to have your own business, right?
Yeah.
And how much of an influence your parents' business had on that. Do you think that was pretty influential for you?
Yeah. Honestly, it absolutely is. I realized that my business partner, his parents were entrepreneurs. My now wife, her parents were chiropractors. And they come from like in the small business mindset. And it just really makes a difference. And I've had other business partners where that's not the case. And, you can really kind of see, oddly, I think you can tell like they don't have that extra bit of grit to like get through it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I, in relation to myself, my dad was a dentist. My dad went back to dental school when he was like 29. And back then that's like, what? Like you can't go back to dental school at 29. He went through top of the class, started a successful practice. And I just remember, gave me a great upbringing. It really did. I'm super grateful. But I always remember the conversations like, every once in a while, my mom would just like, she's like, yeah, the office isn't doing well. We're having, a couple of bad months. And like as a kid, I'm like, all right. But it's obviously made like a formal impression. I'm like, oh, wow, my dad's out there like hustling. Like he's going to make it happen. He had radio ads playing. People knew because they heard my dad's radio ads. Right. And I'm like, yeah. So I think just ingrained in you when you raised in a household like that is cool. You can dictate your own path. Right. And you got to figure it out, but there's risk and it's stress.
Oh yeah, totally.
Right.
But look, I think anyone can be an entrepreneur and I think anyone truly can do anything. Yeah. And I've really seen that with F45, a lot of corporate refugees, people that had nothing to do with fitness. And now they're some of the most successful F45s. Like anyone truly can do it. But I would just say for me personally, and I think I can hear that with you as well. I'm really grateful to have grown up in a home where that was the case. It certainly feels like it gives me at least some level of a competitive advantage for getting through those moments that can be really tough. And every entrepreneur goes through it for sure, where you don't know what's going to happen, and you're not sure where he's coming from, and you're not sure where new clients are coming from. It can definitely be a little scary. I've learned to really enjoy it though.
I have too, man. I don't know what I would be. I talked in a previous podcast, this guy, Brett Klick, who was on the show, about how we've almost kind of self-selected ourselves out of any other path because I don't think I could deal with a typical 8 to 5 job. I would drive everyone around me crazy. I have driven everyone around me crazy in a typical 8 to 5. So yeah. I have to ask the question because I'm sure the audience would want to know as well, is like, give us one story from Blue Man Group, man. Give us something. There's got to be a couple like crazy stories.
There's
for 17 years.
It's really tough to say, but one of the things I got asked the most questions on about Blue Man Group was the audition process. And prior to Blue Man Group, actually, I had just been a musician. I hadn't been an actor. I went on to do many other acting gigs, but hands down, the audition, experience over a 6-month process to get into Blue Man Group. So at the time, I was the youngest guy they'd ever hired at 21. And I was the first guy they ever hired without an acting background. And I think now probably the 70 or 100 guys globally that they have, it's kind of like half and half. Because in some ways it's easier to teach somebody who has the spark and the ability, but doesn't have a lot of bad habits. Because Blue Man Group acting is a very, very specific type of acting. Nonverbal, but it's behavioral, right? So you got to really be really clear with it. So that's, I would say, one of the most interesting stories is, we would work on a lot of clown work, to prepare for the character. And where you'd come into an audition room and, you'd turn away, put your clown nose on and turn back to work on some clowning, because it's all about alienation, learning to feel true alienation and sort of live in the id, live in the shaman at the same time, sort of cancels out if there's the id, the child ego, and there's like a superhero ego. We talk about my character is both, and which cancels out the human ego. So you've got to really learn to experience both and live in that duality, which is kind of esoteric to talk about. But we would do these auditions where you'd come in and they'd ask you to dance like a flamenco dancer, and then other guys would come in there and again you're it's funny, right? It's a funny scenario, and I was really struggling with it where it wouldn't crack me up, and you've got to learn to find a steel resolve as that character where you're enjoying it but you're not laughing. You're really having a good time and you're sort of living through the eye of the needle. So I remember I was working with one of the founders, Chris Wink, and it was just how I had a bad session and I just knew it wasn't, I wasn't moving forward to get the gig. And I was and it was honestly, I think it was Valentine's Day weekend in February 1997. And I remember saying to him, we were going to start back an audition again on Monday. I was like, so what can I do? He was like, I don't know, man. He's like, maybe just put the clown nose on and walk around and just get comfortable and try and just really live in it, I found out later what he meant was walk around my apartment. But what I heard was walk around New York City, So I was like, cool. I was basically I'm going to put this thing on and I'm going to go the entire weekend. And I went to a show, I went to a bar, I went to restaurants, I went walking around. And honestly, the first 6 hours or even the next day, I was people just are looking at you really weird and strange. And it was really hard not to laugh quite a bit. But then you do kind of forget about it. And then when you aren't present to it in the same way that someone in a wheelchair or someone might have a deformity or something like that, they're present to it, they're not certainly not giving it attention. You begin to feel people ignore you. You begin to feel people oh, that's a weirdo. Right. So I really got in touch with oh, this is alienation. And it was a truly amazing, sort of life-changing experience for me. And then we went back and I absolutely crushed those auditions the next week because of it. And they were like, what happened? What? Because I was just so, different. And I kind of told them the story and it became a bit of folklore and everyone just kind of lost their heads around it. That I would do it. It was always honestly an earnest mistake, but I'm really grateful for the experience. And I was willing to also put myself in the environment. And ultimately I got the gig because of it.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. I mean, that's a whole nother level of not giving a shit, right? Is just walking around with the clown nose.
Well, you'll learn to not give a shit.
Right. Yeah. And that's part of it, right? I mean, that's a really interesting exercise for so many reasons because, we have this mentality in our brains that it's hardwired in that we have to be accepted by the tribe or we get rejected and therefore die. Right.
Yeah.
Nowadays that's completely irrelevant, but that hardwiring is still there. And, you think about that. Most people there's no way I'm putting on a clown nose and walking around any city, especially New York City, right? But then you think about, well, why? What's the worst thing that can happen? No one's going to kill you. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe New York City.
Right? Yeah, I mean, you definitely get treated like a weirdo for sure. I mean, I went to a Broadway show. I mean, I went I was like, well, if I'm going to get into it, let's get into it. I think I even took Staten Island ferry across and came back. And everyone was up with this dude. But it gave me access to what I needed. Yeah. But I think the story really is though, the lesson for me was just go the extra mile, be willing to do whatever it takes. And there's glory on the other side, but you got to be willing to go through the eye of that needle, no matter how scary it is. Just eat the fear and get through it.
Yeah.
And I've sort of just rinse and repeat that and to a certain extent, the fear that we had around opening F45 for the first time, not really having had that background, that's what gave me partially the willingness and the ability to do so. I was like, I think if we just commit and just truly come from a whatever it takes mentality, we're going to be just fine, because the evidence was there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's so critically, I mean, mindset's so critical, and it's so, it's a hot topic, right? Entrepreneurial mindset. It's just, everybody talks about it. There's mindset coaches now.
Yeah.
Everywhere. And I wish it wasn't like, I hate fads, but I wish it can't be understated. Like, it truly is everything, right? It's how you view things and how you approach it and your confidence in it. That's hysterical. So, F45, man, you started yours when there was about 150 or so.
I think that's the number. I'm not even 100% sure.
Ish.
It might have been between like 75 and 150. Yeah.
And how many now?
I believe we're somewhere between, don't quote me on this. These numbers get updated every month. We're somewhere between 1,800 and 2,000, or just over 2,000 studios sold. And we're averaging, I believe, somewhere between 80 and 100 sales a month. And that's a great story, and we're excited about that. But what I think is a better story is the difference we're making in the communities that we're opening in, where we're having these small business owners open an F45, and they're having massive success, and they're getting 200 and 300 members by following our systems, and they're not only making a huge difference, but really changing their own life as well. I can't say how many people have come up to me, or I've seen come up to Adam and Rob at one of, say we just had our world conference. So many people come up and just like, thank you for starting this. Really, it's changed my life, changed so many members' lives. I mean, it's really fantastic. Like that, to me, like that's the better story. Although what gets talked about is our rapid growth, and the rapid growth is great, but it's just evidence that whatever we're doing, we're tapping into something in the way that we're doing it that is genuinely providing a massive service of getting people the results they want and the experience they want in a boutique fitness environment.
Yeah, man. It's interesting. So, Luke Armstrong was on the show a while ago, and we talked about kind of a fairly good amount of time, my experience in CrossFit and what I've seen that grow, and the growth curve that's, inevitably now kind of reached its peak and starting to, naturally decline, and not necessarily in a bad way. I think the cream is starting to rise in the CrossFit community, and people who have great systems are rising in great communities. So it's good. It's a good thing. It needs to happen. And I was asked last night, ironically, at a dinner party that we had here, it was someone was like, well, you still work with a lot of CrossFit gyms? I'm like, yeah, I do, and they asked, inevitably they said like, well, if you're going to open a gym, would you do a CrossFit? I'm like, no, I think I do an F45 really. And they're like, well, why? And I'll probably get a couple of emails just by saying that. But I'm like, it's the systems, right? Because, so many great, as you and I have talked extensively about, there's a couple different people who own gyms. There's business owners who love fitness, right? Business people who love fitness. That's the kind that generally sees success in CrossFit. And then there's also fitness people who love fitness, right? Who want to open a business. And I think what's beauty about F45 is that blend of great systems and support. And, talking to Jordan McCreary yesterday, yesterday this recording, guy owns 23 franchises.
Yeah,
right?
like 28, 29 years old.
Yeah, he's like 29. I'm like, how the fuck did you do that in this period of time? And it's only been a couple of years. He's like, well, I couldn't have done it if I didn't have the system support I got from HQ, right? And I think that's the thing. If you're a fitness professional and you're thinking about getting, presumably most fitness professionals will think, well, I'm a great trainer, but I need to make more money. I need to have a greater impact. I can't be working 60 hours a week on the floor. So what's the next step? They automatically either think, well, now there's two options, right? Primarily there's online training, and then there's opening a gym, right?
Sure.
And the thing about CrossFit and why it spread so fast was completely different, because the barrier to entry was so low, right? If you could afford $1,000 for an affiliate fee and 50 grand maybe tops for a setup, you could open a gym, right? Or less.
That's a really important distinction, I think, to make is, first let me back up. First of all, I think F45, we have a lot of respect for anyone in the fitness industry, but particularly guys that have been running CrossFits. because they are a licensee situation and we are a franchisee situation. So by the nature of franchising, it's our job to build systems that help, the entrepreneur to leverage those systems to provide value for their clients. Mm-hmm. And we absolutely love CrossFit. We have nothing bad to say about them. And we think that they did an amazing job. And I think in some ways the guys use what those guys accomplished as inspiration to build what they built. But the difference being that like those CrossFit guys had to figure out a lot of those systems on their own. And that could, that if you had the skill set, obviously you were doing amazing, or you had to learn the skill set to do amazing, or, you weren't doing amazing.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's interesting. Now tell me, how does F45 Academy play into that support system that you guys have? Like what's the vision for it? What have you done so far? Where is it going? Give us some information on what you're doing with that.
Sure. Absolutely. With the F45 Academy, its main goal is to upskill all of anyone that interacts with an F45, whether it be the owner, investor, the head trainer / manager, or the membership sales manager, or the trainers. And it's our thought that we should create as much amazing thought leadership content as possible as to what is going to actually improve their lives inside the studio and the difference they can make. And we're all about saving time. We're of the F45 in its intelligent business systems. The thing that they've done the most, I think, correctly is have respect for their time and other people's time. And everything we're doing is trying to reduce the level of time someone has to spend on certain things that isn't making a difference for the client. So making this online education portal is about quick 30-minute to maybe 90-minute classes that, we produce every single quarter for the entire network to be on the cutting edge of the thought leadership, the new ways we want things done, or what other people have seen success in, whether it be, body movement patterns, all the way up to grassroots marketing, to digital marketing practices, or, even if we're going to update the tech, we'll educate everyone very quickly on it so that everyone is sort of risen by the high tide of the success of the company.
Yeah. Expand on the tech, man. It's a huge topic for me on this podcast is all kinds of tech within.
Sure. So, again, F45, one of the things I think we do really well, and the guys that have created the company have done really well, Adam Gilchrist and Rob Deutsch, they have taken technology and leveraged it to really fill a void in the market. Prior to F45, and even guys like, and I think we could all think guys like CrossFit, Pilates, and yoga, where you pay a premium price, you get a premium result. But still, before F45, and I still think there's a lot of growth for everyone left in the market, most people are used to paying $25 to $50 for a big box gym that they don't go to. And it's not in the big box gyms mentality or business model for you to show up on Saturday. They have 50,000 square foot spaces and 300 parking spots. They expect you not to show up. And then everyone would love to have a personal trainer, but at $100 to $150 a session, even on the low end of 2 times a week, that's $800 a month. Now, unless you make over $150,000, or even if you do make $150,000, that's a big whack every month to just have personal training. And then if you add that, like over 3 to 6 months with a personal trainer, all personal trainers are great, but after 3 to 6 months, the actual results the client is getting fall off a cliff, and it's usually because they're talking, not because the trainer doesn't have talent or the person isn't there to work. It's just something changes in that environment. So there was a huge void in the market between $25 or $50 a month to $800 or more a month. And these guys were really dedicated from having worked out. They played rugby together from like 5 to, semi-pro, and that community, that culture. And I think they drew a little bit from CrossFit on this. Like CrossFit nailed the culture, nailed it. Like if one or two people didn't show up one week, guaranteed, at that CrossFit, like the people in that community were texting that person, "Are you okay? What's going on? Where are you? Let's get you back in the gym. If you've fallen off, let's go." Like, awesome. So that, I think that those guys saw a lot of synergy between the two, but really wanted to somehow deliver a personal training experience at a less and a more affordable way in a better experience. And what they came up with, they were like, well, wasn't it amazing when we were like working out for the rugby team? We would all show up. It was just like exciting. We were there for each other. Like they wanted to get that feeling to the market, and with intelligent personal trainers to really make sure you had a high level athletic workout that could be regressed or progressed either way. And what they came up with was the F45 technology to help leverage people's time. And it's a communication tool, and it's an extension of the trainers that are running the class that day. Like it's certainly not like some people would be like, oh, it's just like online training. I'm like, not at all. It's nothing
like virtual training or something. Yeah, it's not.
Not even close. Like because there's a human being that's in the room there to make sure you've got great form, make sure that you're working at that 70 to 90% intensity every single time. We put experience first, and we've leveraged technology to do so. And so if anyone who doesn't know that might be listening, when you walk into an F45, there's probably like 9 TVs, 5 of them that really help you execute the workout. And you walk in, there's an intro as to what the class is. It changes every single day. We have over 3,500 exercises in our database, which is the largest exercise database in the world. We have a team of people that all they do is research new exercises. So, and then all the workouts are branded. So you show up on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you know exactly what kind of workout you're going to get. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're going to get cardio. Tuesdays and Thursdays, you're going to get resistance. And Sundays, you're going to get resistance as well. And on Saturday, we have a hybrid class. And then for fun, we'll drop a hybrid class whenever, just to keep everybody surprised. But so you know what you're getting, and it's balanced with this variety of never knowing what exercises are going to be in that workout. And then then after the intro, there's a demo for every single exercise, because in our minds, safety is a number one pillar. Because a lot of people will show up to an F45 and they'll have not been in the gym for 2 or 3 years. And they've been psyching themselves up to walk into a gym and start to change their lives. If they sprain an ankle or they get a knee injury 3 weeks in, they might not ever come back, or they might might be another 3 years before they get the courage to come back. So we demo every single exercise, and we let everyone know, if you need to stop, just stop. No worries. It's for us. It's about showing up 320 times in a 365-day year. That's what that habit is going to create change. Being a part of that community is going to create change. And you're going to get this high level personal training experience in this group setting. And if it wasn't for the F45 TV tech and the way we've been able to leverage that, we wouldn't be able to deliver that experience at the way we do.
Yeah. Wow. Very well explained, man. For the F45 Academy, is that just at this current point, is it just for people within the F45 community, or can other trainers access that and leverage it anyway? Or is it
we're currently, right now, at this current date, it's just if you're inside the network. But as you know, there's a roadmap in the next 12 months to open it up. And we're going to be having, actual certifications that the general public can sort of come in and get a taste as to what does it mean to be an F45 trainer, or we might have a class on, the operations of running any fitness business, things like that. You'll be able to and get certifications through us. Yeah.
Right on, man. Yeah. It's interesting. One of the things I've noticed about F45 and the leadership is they're not doing things the way that everybody else does them. Right. In some aspects, you're running a group fitness class, but the opportunities that you guys are looking for are different. Like, no one's trying to be on a college campus, but here you guys are, right? You saw that as an opportunity, and then you're going for it. And there's all these other things, that, talking to you guys, I won't mention here, but you guys are going down these avenues, and no one's really thought like, well, why don't we try to go there? And yet you guys, there you are. Tell about that journey into the college. Like, how have those conversations gone? Because you've been out there selling it, you've been out there implementing it. How's that been received?
Well, first and foremost, I would just want to give it up to the CEOs and their willingness to break into new markets, no matter the cost, right? Because they genuinely believe in sort of the bottom line as what we're up to, and what I believe we're up to, sort of the unspoken war cry and mission statement is to have as many F45s as we possibly can around the world that are genuinely making a difference for communities and giving people access to a fitness community so they can live a happier, healthier life. And we're not afraid to go back and research data. So I don't know the exact reason those guys really decided to get into the market, like what the spark was. But I do know that they're highly dedicated to F45 having 30 and 40 and 50 year staying power as an innovative fitness company that makes a difference for others. And so there's a lot of data out there that shows whatever you do, whatever physical activity you get involved in between 18 and 24, it's probably what you're going to do as a habit the rest of your life.
Wow.
So like 80% of the people do that. So unless you played sports, and even if you did play sports, you can get into a bit of a habit. And so as a way to not only revolutionize recreation centers on college campuses, which are really just big box gyms on these college campuses, the college campuses, there was a lot of data out there that like they were having students leave to go to CrossFits. They were having students leave to go to Orange Theory and other fitness products when they could, at a fraction of the price, go to this big box gym on their campus, and they weren't doing it. And since we know that people are going to go to college, they're going to fall into these habits, and then they're going to go out and get a new job and have extra cash. Our thought was, well, let's take F45 to them. Let's make a difference for these recreation centers that used to be a cost center for these universities that are now a profit center for these universities. And, they're running 1,500 students a week through an F45, and we're teaching people about functional fitness, which isn't just about, great training. It's life training. Everyone asks, well, what is functional fitness? And it's, obviously it's a multi-plane movement. Burpee is probably the most classic, but we want people to be able to take that suitcase, put it into that overbend compartment, boom, no problem whatsoever. And I would just add here, we don't have any mirrors in our studios, and everyone's like, why don't you have any mirrors? And so much of it is, we really want the trainers to be the mirrors. But really, it's psychologically, we did some research where if you have mirrors in your studio, the second you're in the mirror doing your bicep curl or your Olympic clean and jerk, whatever it is, you're just with you. Take the mirror away, somehow you're with the group, emotionally and psychologically. Yep. And we wanted people focusing on that, and we wanted people focusing on what it feels like to work out, not what you look like to work out. So that you want to, because nobody looks great, honestly, when they're working out, they get all red faced and whatever. So, but that feels great. So we really wanted people focused on that. And so this is a bit of a long-winded answer around why we got into colleges and what that path looked like. But it's about giving F45 30-year staying power, because we're already experiencing it. We've only been in that market for 2.5 years. And there are so many F45s that have trainers that were trainers at F45, or clients that used to be, they were like, well, I fell in love with it at, UT. And now, I've got this job in Austin. I'm like, I miss it. So they have to go out and get a F45 membership. And then we hope to partner with these collegiate minds. And we think it's going to help us have a competitive advantage and continuing to be the most innovative fitness company in the world.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely think it will. I mean, I put myself back in Eric 1997, right? Dual sport athlete in college, and in the off season, man, I got fat. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like I had water polo and swimming season in between. There is, the winter season. I just got fat and out of shape because I didn't want to go in the gym. But I also think about it, which is, kind of funny. And maybe this is just the boy in me, but like, if I found out that like women on campus were going to F45 and I could go join a class and meet some of them, have a good entry point, I'd be there, right? For sure. Way cheaper than a bar, right? Way easier.
Yeah, so cheaper, yeah.
Eric, way healthier.
Honest of you. I just want to acknowledge you for your transparency and your honesty on that answer. that is part of it, right? Because and we're actually extremely proud to say, like, and I could share this data with you if you wanted. On college campuses, the male participation was abysmal. Anywhere between like 2% and 7%. And now, almost every single college we have reports 120% increase in male participation across all of their Group X classes because of F45 and the legitimacy of, like our resistance days are legit, like, and people could see that. And we also, people would be in the gym, literally on a treadmill, watching an F45 class through a piece of glass. And those people are in and out in 45 minutes, drenched in sweat, having burned 700 calories. And these guys are still on the treadmill being like, what am I doing? And then they'd go hop into a class and obviously have a much better experience.
Yeah.
Not that we have anything against treadmill running, but if you're going to work out, do something, but
I'll say it, it's boring as fuck. That's it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, I'll say it. You don't have to. I will. I'll say it for you. It's just really boring. And, when I was in LA, meeting with you guys, and I went to the Venice location, I ended up seeing a guy who used to be a member of my gym in Santa Barbara. And I told him I was, growing me. We hugged out. I was like, dude, how you doing? Great. He's he graduated law school. I'm like, what do you think? What are you enjoying this? He's like, this is great, man. He's like, honestly, like, and as a single guy, like, I'm really enjoying my time here. I'm meeting a lot of great people, and I'm ripped. He was ripped. He looked great,
Yeah.
And so there's a lot to it. I mean, the social aspect, especially, I think the branding and who you guys attract, and the fun attitude, and the way the trainers are, and my experience at every time has been really, really good. But I think that's a huge, it's a huge part of it. But that's what gets people in the door, right? That's how you make an impact, is you kind of give them those primal instincts of like, hey, this is cool. It's hip, all of those things. And it's a great place to meet people and socialize that bond you in a different way than any kind of app or bar or forced setting, right? Where people want to go and meet. And I think that's a big part of where group-based fitness, we can talk about the training, right? Okay, who has better program design? Who has better metabolic training? Like, who has all these things? But ultimately, what the thing that people care about the most, what's going to separate and is separating the best from the rest, is experience, right? Is how do we create an amazing experience that makes people want to talk, right? That makes people want to keep coming back, and that is much more than just a workout. And I think that's where you guys excel as well. And I think a lot of people in CrossFit, a lot of people in Orange Theory, like, that's what they figured out, right? Is how do we use all of those things, right? From great training to, community and culture to technology, to create the best experience for people moving forward that they'll want to come back, and most importantly, talk to their friends about, and get those people in too. And that's hugely important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, for anyone that's out there that's considering opening a fitness studio, or has a fitness studio that's struggling, that might hear this, something that we really live and die by is everything we're trying to create is about delivering the best experience that truly delivers value, by innovating and motivating to create those results that people want to come back. They feel a part of the community. They feel like these people really genuinely care about them. And oh yeah, it happens to be the best training in the world based on our programming, and we're going to get you in and out. So we have respect for your time. But even then, even with an F45, your probably best bet to just like open a business and cross your fingers might be an F45, but no one, whether it's a CrossFit, an Orange Theory, a Pilates studio, it just doesn't matter. If you don't provide value and genuinely make people feel like they're a part of that community, they're not going to be there very long. We have a saying: people quit products, they don't quit people.
Yeah.
So if your product actually delivers, something of value from a fitness standpoint, but you genuinely create a community and environment where everyone's welcome. And at least here, this is your second home. This is your second living room. We're here to be of service to you, to make sure you get what you want. You're going to succeed.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%, man. And I think, one of the advantages of doing a franchise like F45 is a lot of the system, because building out systems, doing things like that, it just takes time. And if you can have that stuff already taken for you, and having some of the best in the world, that just frees you up more time to figure out the culture. Because there's no one formula to figure out culture in your particular community. I mean, talking to that gentleman we mentioned earlier, Jordan, 23 different locations, right? Of studios, and he was talking about how each different location has a different culture and a different leader within the studio manager, because someone's going to associate, if it's an urban area, they're going to want some guy who's like 6'2", ripped, super bubbly, right? The classic, atypical fitness trainer. In other places, they're going to want someone who's, more of like a relatable soccer mom, early 40s, right? And each culture is going to be different. So you have to figure out your own culture, and that takes time. But if you're bogged down with the systematic things that you have to do on a day-to-day basis, from answering emails to managing leads to, you name it, the programming, all of that stuff, you're not going to have time to focus on what really matters, which is improving the experience.
Yeah, you said exactly what our business model is. The reason we created F45 TV, the reason we created the F45 Playbook, which is an online portal to help business owners run their business, and the F45 Academy. It's all about saving people time. We also have F45 FM, right? So we take care of the programming for the actual workout. We take care of the programming for the music. We give you all these other intelligent business systems to save you time so you can focus on what matters most. Building that culture and figuring out what your demographic and your market wants so you can provide it.
Yeah.
It's like, that's really it. It just happens to be amazing training, and the music's great. And the momentum of the company and the success we're having is also just really fun and exciting to be a part of.
Yeah. Yeah. And people probably always want to know, like, well, what's the secret sauce? Like, well, no, there is no secret sauce. It's all that, right? Yeah. That you just said that we put into one thing,
Well, look, that's all great, right? But then there's execution.
Yes.
And this is where mindset comes in. And we really try to help people when they come through our online education portals and or our inductions to get their mindset correct about where to put their energy and where to put their focus, and how to get through any of those challenging times. And that's really the difference maker, right? Is one person's mindset to get it done or not.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Believe it or not, we've been talking for about 45 minutes. Do you believe that?
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me, what do you, what does like the next year look like for you, for Scott Kinworthy? What's
Scott Kinworthy? Well, we're gonna continue to smash our goals with our two studios, F45 Training Summerlin and F45 Training Henderson. We're really excited about that. We may be expanding into to another, like a third studio in the Valley here. But more importantly, with my HQ responsibilities, it's F45 Academy has been around for about 18 months, but we're going to be really doubling down on it, like I said earlier, and hopefully within the next year, be able to open it up to the general public to be able to get certifications through us, and developing systems that help our franchisees that are coming online and that have been open for a long time to, again, educate them, get them the information they need, and save them time, so that they can, again, focus on that thing. So that's the main thing we're focusing on. That's my main job over the next year. There's some talk of us, maybe potentially doing our own podcast. There's some talk of, there's the amount of things that we have rolling out in the next year that I'm not allowed to talk about that I wish I could share, will blow everyone's mind, between, celebrity endorsements and new products. And it's going to be a very, very exciting, interesting year for F45 as we'll be making some announcements in the corporate sector, with us providing some fitness studios in that area. It's really, honestly, it's such an exciting time, and it's going to be a great year.
Yeah. And we can't talk about Mark Wahlberg.
We can talk about Mark. Yeah. And he's a new investor. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He just made news a couple of weeks ago of this recording. So awesome, man. Well, Scott, where do people get a hold of you, man? Where they can find you?
That's a good question. Well, for me personally, there's just my email and my phone number. But you can always call one of my studios, F45 Training Summerlin or F45 Training Henderson, or go to those websites. It'd be F45training.com/Summerlin or F45training.com/Henderson. I don't know if you think it's valuable to mention some other site, I'd happily do so.
Yeah. Well, we'll put some contact information for you. I don't think you're hard to get a hold of. I think people want to find you. They can.
Yeah. Anyone wants to have a chat, feel free, right. On social media, all those things too.
Awesome, man. Well, Scott, always a pleasure, man. Thanks for coming on and sharing your story.
Eric, thanks. Such a pleasure. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Scott Kinworthy. Hey, fitness fans, don't leave yet. It's your host, Eric Malzone, and I have a quick favor to ask. Actually, 3 favors. So, number 1, if you're a fan of our show, I ask you to do something that takes under 3 minutes. Go to iTunes, please, and subscribe to our show. Please, please, please. It means so much to us. It's so important. And then give us a favorable review. We would really, really appreciate it. And I can't tell you how much it means and helps us out. So I know it takes 2 minutes of your day, and it means a lot to us. So please do that. Number 2, go to our YouTube channel, our Fitness Marketing Alliance, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel there. Number 3, if you like this episode or any of the episodes that we've released, share it on social. That's huge. That's a big deal for us. And we put a lot of work into these episodes, trying to give you great, actionable content for the fitness industry. So that would mean a lot. And that's it. So we have some big plans coming up for this show. I'll be talking about that in the next couple episodes. But thank you so much for listening. It means so much. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I love to hear from everybody. Eric, ERIC at fitnessmarketingalliance.com.